Last time I came here, I was becoming alcoholic. So alcohol is a very dangerous drug. You can kill yourself with it very easily. You could buy a bottle that will kill you.
Yep.
And nobody's
In
gonna
any
say-
store.
Any store.
Yeah.
I had to lock myself in a fucking ranch. I did it old school. Just fucking lock
How long did it take?
my whole life it's going to take, I think. I'm always going to be, I like to think about it, sometimes. But I've been sober for about 4 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
But
it's hard to do.
It is not easy.
Yeah. I don't have the addiction gene, the physical addiction gene. I don't know why. But even I chew on these nicotine pouches all the time.
Yeah.
I went on vacation and I said, no nicotine. Let's see what happens. For 5 days, I was fine. Nothing. Coffee. I said, I'm going to quit coffee. I quit coffee for 5 days. I'm like, no weirdness.
Yeah. I think for me, it was medication. When I got out of work, I had loads of PTSD the first time I was on the podcast. We talked a little bit about it, and then afterwards, you gave me some names of some people I should talk to, and I did. I went out and looked out for help. Eventually, I just got sober, but it's insane to me how differently alcohol gets treated versus all other substances.
Well, it's one of the only ones that if you get off it too quick, you'll die.
Yes, which I did.
Did you get real close to that?
I started feeling my heart do shit.
Oh, did you think, well, I'll just have a little drinky poo and get back on track and do this slowly, a slow drip?
When I left the studio the last time, you're still in LA. My marriage ended around that same time. And I had a few things going on. PTSD and trying to figure things out and drinking myself to sleep every third day because it's the only way I can go through a dreamless night was unsustainable. So my life was falling apart and I had to do something. I had a friend who owns a big ranch and he had a cabin that I could stay in. He said, hey, you can stay here.
How long did it take to...
I got there and I didn't want to feel like a freeloader, so I got there and I gave them, they had a little small community school there for the kids, so I brought a TV and DVDs and gave them all this stuff.
That's awesome.
Can stay here. He stood me in front of everybody and said, this guy's an alcoholic. If I catch anybody giving him alcohol, or if you see him giving me alcohol, you're out. Embarrassed me. I felt like shit. But it gave me what I needed. Third night.
Shakes and sweats.
Just wild dreams. I think I pissed myself, but it was a sweat. Then I started getting heart, chest pains and shit like that going on, and I think it took me about 2 weeks, I think, to really be on the level. It's don't do it that way. It's a stupid way of doing it. You almost die. Eventually I got...
Some people do, right?
Yeah.
I think that's how Amy Winehouse died.
Yes. That's probably... Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that the case, Jamie? Don't they think that Amy Winehouse died from complications of alcoholism, of trying to get sober?
Yeah. It is... You feel it. Whatever... people often say, I feel like I'm dying. No. That feels like you're dying. Like somebody's sitting on your chest. And you can't get up. And also your brain is screaming for something that it can't get.
Right.
I
Alcohol poisoning after binge drinking following a period of abstinence. Oh, even worse.
Eventually I started speaking about it. I was embarrassed about it, but I started writing about it and publishing on my Instagram account, just my experience with it. And I got a lot of help from a lot of people.
Did you ever do Ibogaine?
Yeah. It did things. It opened up a few cans of worms of the past in me. But it helped.
That's the one thing that I hear over and over again for people that do suffer from PTSD and people that do suffer from addiction.
Yeah.
Ibogaine's the one.
It's like a weird conversation. It's like you've avoided these very specific things for decades, and led me on a path, and it specifically opened up a bunch of doors for me in the realm of, I'm the cartel guy. Like I used to do this, and that's what I do when I train people in that. But then, I'm a guy going through alcohol sobriety in public. I had Randy Blythe, the lead singer of Lamb of God, reach out of nowhere. This random guy that I used to listen to when I was working, my headphones. He was like, "Hey, Ed, I hear you speaking about do you have a sponsor?" I was like, "I never went to AA. I just fucking locked myself in a room." You're stupid for doing that. But he's like, "I'll be your sponsor."
Oh, wow.
So he started.
How fucking cool is that?
What
a sponsor.
He is. I don't know. He's an amazing guy. That's who I call when I'm close. Yes, it is insane to think about the fact that the bottle of liquor you can buy at the store will kill you. All you have to show is your ID.
Well, it's the problem of addiction. This is the actual fuel that runs the cartel. There's a giant problem in the United States of people and this appetite for illegal narcotics.
Yes.
And this pretending that people aren't doing these drugs and like they're pretending that making them illegal is going to stop this. No, all you're doing is propping up the cartel. That's all you're doing is funding the cartel. And then also helping the alcohol lobbyists in this country.
Yeah. The perfect storm was the outbreak of the prescription opioid epidemic in this country. That was like this initiation of what later turned into like, oh, well, this is off the table now because we passed all these laws and didn't put some people in jail that should be in prison, some families that I don't know how they're free.
Yeah.
But then what takes its place? Somewhere in Mexico, people were growing poppies, and they said, well, let's add a little bit of fentanyl into these very weak poppy yields of heroin and see what it does. And it kicked.
Oh, so that was the source of it, that the heroin was weak?
These hillsides have been leached for years from growing weed on them.
So the topsoil was bad.
Let's
they were doing monocrop agriculture with drugs. Oh my God! Industrial monocrop agriculture with drugs led to fentanyl being introduced into it to make it more potent. Wow!
And also, weed legalization in parts like California led to interesting phenomenons. Some of these fields were no longer profitable, so they would switch to poppy. And one thing that people don't realize is that a lot of these things get tested out first in the markets in Mexico, because Mexico has giant drug markets and that are fought over, and people will try this. Try this.
Oh boy, it's like trial samples that they hand out at the supermarket. Oh no.
So at some point in the past, somebody down in Jalisco probably tried the first load of Mexican fentanyl loaded heroin. Somebody somewhere out there probably did the first hit and was like, holy shit, this is good. You got a winner here.
Or died immediately.
Or died.
And they said, hey, that's a little too potent. Because the amount of fentanyl that you need to kill somebody is so small.
Yeah, but it was a hit here, though. It was a giant hit here in the U.S. And then
is it as big a problem in Mexico as it is in the United States?
No. The reason is wild, though. It's not because Mexico cracks down on fentanyl and there's no fentanyl on the streets. It's because the cartels down there will kill you if they catch you selling that shit locally.
Wow.
Because this poison is meant to export.
Wow.
If the cartels catch you selling anything that isn't from them or fentanyl in certain areas, kill you. So that's the Mexican Dare program.
That is so crazy. Like they know it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they know. And you see some of these cartels publicly claim like, we don't deal in this fentanyl thing. This is not us. Fentanyl as a whole, I think in the U.S. is kind of down. And I know that not all of it or not most of it is now coming from Mexico. I mean, you'll get pill shipments of fentanyl pills coming from Mexico. A lot of those. But you also get fentanyl in the mail all over the U.S. there's a loophole that is finally being closed about exporting things into the United States. So if they're below $800 or something like that, they don't get the full scan. So I know for a fact there are cartels or groups of people in the United States organizing, shipping things to the United States that have fentanyl in them, and they start loading, and they're selling fentanyl loaded substances into the U.S. without any sort of cartel or Mexican involvement. That is also happening in the U.S.
And the precursors for this stuff all come from China, correct?
They all come from China, and this is my observation, I guess. When COVID hit, these precursors started getting really rare for some of these organizations, and specifically the Sinaloa Cartel was actually getting their fentanyl in the U.S. from some of the last shipments that they were receiving in the ports in the U.S. because the U.S. kept the ports open for a bit longer. So you had cases of cartel members getting caught with fentanyl smuggling into Mexico because they couldn't get their regular supply from China, from the regular ports. And that's what they were utilizing to infuse the drugs that they wouldn't send over to the U.S. But the one that didn't have any of those issues was the New Generation Cartel, because they own a lot of the ports on both sides of the country. And also they've always had, I don't want to say that the People's Republic of China purposely has been sending fentanyl or has been turning a blind eye to all this phenomenon as a way to fuck with the U.S. It's probably the case, though.
Yeah.
It's probably the case.
Well, it seems like that would be a good move if you want to destabilize a country. How would you get hundreds of thousands of people hooked on this terrible drug?
Yeah, and I mean they're all over the illegal weed trade in the U.S. as well right now. Hundreds of them I saw on the border crossing in single file.
I was watching some video that some guy made about Maine. There's this town in Maine, but there's all these Chinese nationals living there, and they've taken over weed operations in Maine.
It's wild. It's when we talked about Vietnam, I think Mexico is a weird Vietnam in a lot of ways, because you see foreign influences in Mexico in different ways. The current administration is very close with Venezuela and Cuba, which are enemies of the United States. They're pretty friendly with them. So that's one influence in the country. All of these precursors and supplies and all of these involve Chinese chemists, industrialists, individuals. A lot of the cartels were basically hiding their money through Chinese banking institutions. That's the way you hide money from the U.S. You take it to a Chinese money broker. He puts it in the Chinese banking institution. You go to Mexico, you have a shell company down there or a real company down there. And then you have your investments with that Chinese company. Now you have legitimate money just transferring from one end to the other, and nobody's the wiser. So Mexico is a war field or a battle. A battle is being played out in Mexico that has a lot to do with the United States and affecting the interests of the United States. And China is clearly not the U.S.'s friend in this battle, probably. And things have changed. The dynamics have changed, but you can clearly see that at some point people in China, and I've heard people say that the largest intelligence organization in the world is the Chinese government, because everybody in China is part of the intelligence apparatus, basically. So it's hard for me to believe that all these industrialists and all of these chemists come to Mexico and show these cartel members how to cook, manufacture, make, or actually fabricate. Like they've been fabricating fentanyl in Mexico. There have been a few laboratories found in Mexico where they're actually making fentanyl in Mexico. This is very common now. But they learned their tradecraft and skillcraft from people from China. How can the Chinese government have these people moving in and out of the country and showing these things in the back and forth and not like, oh, we don't know anything about this?
Right. They're probably directed to do it.
I don't know.
Look, it makes sense. It makes sense. There's so many countries that are involved in destabilizing America, just like we're involved in destabilizing other countries. It's a whack-a-mole game that's going on all over the world.
Tren de Aragua, which is talked about a lot here in the U.S., these Venezuelan gangs, they're operating in central Mexico openly now. there's power vacuums all over the country where all these cartel guys are getting hit, and people are the age of the large organizations is probably coming to an end. The Sinaloa cartel doesn't exist anymore. There's smaller factions basically in control, which is allowing things to come in. Tren de Aragua are these Venezuelan gangs that are operating in a way where the Mexican government hasn't dealt with that. It's more like localized gang shit, you know, Camorra, like Italian mafia type dealings that they have. So they're which is like old school Mexican cartels used to do. Mm-hmm. So now they're having to de-evolve. I mentioned this because I talked to some people who are actively working against that federally in Mexico. And then all of a sudden we hear these mentions of Maduro, the president of Venezuela, being placed on that 50 million, I think they're offering for his head. And he's basically now the head of the giant cartel, which is an interesting narrative that the U.S. is putting out there now.
Is that real?
I don't know. You see a lot of these Venezuelan Tren de Aragua people having clear like knowledge and skills, you know, and training, and then they're operating in Mexico, clearly with some sort of a command or directive structure that isn't clear. Like there's no like who's the head of the Tren de Aragua cartel. It's like nobody's going to tell you. They don't know. You know, who's supplying them, who's sending them out, who's controlling them, who's organizing what, and it's like a destabilizing element. I think, you know, it's interesting that when we hear this new mention of authorized military actions in South America, they don't say Mexico specifically; they say just South America, and a very big thing that comes up is Venezuela and Mexico. I think whatever the U.S. is attempting is beyond cartel and drugs. And this is about regional stability now and security. Mexico's industrial plant is the most valuable resource on the planet right now, I think, moving into the future. It's poised to be the next China. And the U.S. sees this. And what does the U.S. need more than anything right now? An industrial plant.
Right.
And where is it going to get one?
Mexico. And Maduro, is this the first time where there's been a gigantic bounty on a president of a South American country in our lifetime?
I don't remember anybody else with one of those.
But it's barely making the news.
But it's wild.
It's wild. He's the president of a country, and they're offering $50 million for his capture.
Yeah, and he's on the TV screaming. He has these daily fucking...
How does he keep from getting kidnapped?
I have no idea. They've tried to kill him. They tried to blow him up with a drone once. They tried to
imagine, like, for 50 mil, like some high-level guys might snatch him up.
Yeah, I don't know how that works as far as a bounty on him, but he's worried. He's mobilized militia forces all over the country. There was 3 years ago or 5 years ago, a bunch of Americans were apparently hired by these private groups to go and try and liberate Venezuela, and they all got caught by fishermen on the coast.
They got caught by fishermen?
There were some fishermen on the coast that were like, "Hey, what are these guys doing here, fucking with the 50 cal on top of a pickup truck?" And I think they were grabbed and they were put on media and like, "Oh, these guys were all people." I think one of them did security for a Trump event, so they put it all on Trump. Like Trump organized this. I don't know the whole of the details. This is like a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but what I've heard is that a lot of that money actually came from Cuban intelligence people who were just trying to orchestrate an embarrassing moment for the U.S. by paying all these mercenaries who are American to try and liberate Venezuela and just catching them.
Wow.
I think that's something like that's happened. There's a lot of gold coming out of that country. It has a lot of gold. There's a lot of shady things coming in and out of that country. Any country that is outside of the scope of Friends of the United States is a country where shady shit can happen.
Jamie, what is the official reason why they have a bounty on Maduro?
Like what? It's a cocaine smuggling operation.
Yeah.
He's allowing or responsible for, and Mexico, the president says they don't have any evidence of that.
Yeah. See. And it's like you don't have any evidence of that, but there's a bunch of Venezuelan organizations in Mexico that you're fighting against, you know,
that are clearly involved in smuggling.
Yeah, and they clearly have some sort of free movement between Venezuela and Mexico. what's going on?
What is going on?
But I think we're headed for something. Last time I was here, I said in 5 years we're going to see some sort of direct military intervention in Mexico, which has already happened. I think with the arrest of Elmayo Zambada, I kind of called the whole terrorist designation thing. I said I didn't think he was going to do it on his first term, but the second one, and he skipped